When I think of portable projectors, I want something that I can just plug into power, point at a wall, and I'm good to go. No messing around with getting the image straight or in focus, or hooking up separate speakers, or needing a projector screen because the image is too dim to go directly on the wall. Now, I want to have the boys over to my place in a few weeks to watch UFC and some movies and maybe even play some games, and my current home cinema setup isn't cutting it. So big thanks to Hisense for actually reaching out to me and wanting to sponsor this video on the channel. This is the 4K triple color laser mini projector C1 from Hisense, and they claim it's a plug and play solution I'm looking for. So in this video, I'm just going to go through the unboxing and setup process and give you my initial thoughts on the experience. Okay, let's start with the unboxing. The package was surprisingly small. I mean, I was expecting something much larger, and I guess that's why they call it the mini projector. Inside, you'll get a remote with a pretty standard selection of controls, including some streaming platform shortcuts down the bottom. Yes, it comes with batteries in the box, and side note, it actually lights up too, which was handy during dark viewing sessions. There's also a quick setup guide, power cable, power brick, and a HDMI extension adapter. Now the C1 unit itself is pretty compact in terms of dimensions and weighs in at just over 10 pounds. So realistically, this gives you a lot of options when it comes to placement, either sitting on a table or shelf, or even mounted somewhere via the mounting thread on the bottom. Side note, if you are just going to sit it on a surface, the feet are adjustable so you can get it level. Just make sure to leave plenty of room on either side and at least 5 centimeters or 2 inches of space above the projector for ventilation. Projectors can get pretty warm, and I've seen some people cram them into places where they just really shouldn't be. Now, design-wise, it's quite minimal. The outside has a kind of brushed aluminum texture with a slight blue sheen, and the front is more of a silver color, but I think it's going to fit in well with most home theater setups. Now, on the front is the 4K pure laser. So the red, blue, and green lasers essentially that make up the image, and of course, some JBL speakers. On the top, you get a few buttons: power, play, pause, and volume up and down for easy changes if you don't have the remote nearby. Moving to the back and taking a look at port selection, there's a decent amount of connectivity, particularly for audio. There's a digital audio out port, and one of the HDMI ports has eARC if you want to connect a sound bar or something. Note that only one HDMI port is 2.1, the other is 2.0, which shouldn't really make a big difference. I was also pleasantly surprised to see an Ethernet port back here as well. Otherwise, it does also have Wi-Fi 6E and Bluetooth 5.0 built in. Now, when it comes to setting up a projector, this is always the worst part because it usually ends up being this time-consuming process to get everything displaying correctly, and if you then move the projector, you kind of have to do it all over again. Now, Hisense claims to have made this super simple. All of their advertising material always goes on about anytime, anywhere entertainment, where you can literally just plonk the projector down in a room. But is this actually the case? So I pointed it at a wall, turned it on, and started setting it up. Now the C1 can produce a projection size from 65 inches all the way up to 300 inches at a 4K resolution. So I powered it on and immediately got an image with some black and white markings on it. I found out later that this is the calibration process it uses to get the image in focus and aligned. It was automatic and took just a few seconds, but more on that later. Then it took me straight into the setup where I could choose between projection modes. There are 4 projection modes: front, front ceiling, rear, and rear ceiling. Now I think front is going to be the most common one, and it's the one I selected. Next, you connect to the Wi-Fi network, select location, time zone, and create a VIDA account, or you can just skip this. There's also a choice between Amazon Alexa and VIDA voice connectivity, and you can give the projector a name. And that's it, setup complete. Once I got through to the menu, it gave me an option to set up Apple AirPlay and HomeKit, which I did because I use both of those. So this is the VIDA Smart TV interface, along with all of these streaming apps that you can log into and start watching content from without having to hook up an Apple TV or computer, for example. So I loaded up some content to check out the image quality first. Now, Hisense claims they've spent a lot of time improving this, and the projector features 3 pure color lasers for natural and realistic color representation, and 1600 ANSI lumens of brightness, which should be bright enough for use indoors. indoors, even with a decent amount of ambient light during the day. The C1 is also the world's first ever mini projector equipped with Dolby Vision, along with HDR10, HLG, and 110% coverage of the BT 2020 color space. And although this is not a review, my initial impressions were generally pretty positive. I mean, you'll always lose a bit of brightness or color clarity with a projector onto a blank wall versus a TV, but especially with the lights dimmed, HDR content didn't have any issues. The colors weren't washed out, contrast looked really good, and the brightness was more than enough to make out the edges of the image or, faces during darker scenes, for example. Now, in terms of audio, the C1 has JBL Sound Solution speakers built in. They provide Dolby Atmos immersive audio via two side-firing 10-watt speakers. The audio was pretty clean and was good enough to the point where, although I could have got better quality from my Sonos soundbar connected via HDMI eARC, couldn't be bothered unplugging it and moving it over to the projector. Now, moving on to gaming, there's a game mode setting as well as something called MEMC technology, which claims to deliver a faster motion rate in the shortest response time possible to reduce blurring and lag. And I've got to say, gaming on a projector image that spans your entire wall is not really something I've experienced before, but I liked it. Racing games are a ton of fun, and also Helldivers 2 looked pretty amazing. But I actually think split screen games with friends is going to be the most popular choice. At this point, I got curious as to what would happen if I just moved the projector while it was still on. And it turns out it'll just readjust the image automatically using the Automagic adjusting system. You can, of course, go into the settings and manually tweak the auto keystone, autofocus, and auto obstacle avoidance if you want to fine tune. But I found that it just did a really good job from the get-go that I didn't really need to do this. So overall, a very interesting product. Sure, it's not the cheapest portable projector out there. It's definitely a little bit pricey, but the ability to plug it in and point it pretty much anywhere and get a clean, in-focused image with good colors and good wireless connectivity is very handy. Not to mention having a decent audio solution built in. I think if you've got kids and you want to do a movie night, or you're like me and you don't have kids yet, but you want to have the lads around and watch sport on a big screen every few weeks, it might be worthwhile checking out.